do these hot topics, we start on a Monday and keep an eye on the news. And Thursday, I send the information over to our producer, Carl Booker, and we go ahead and upload what the show would look like. But just when you think things are pretty calm for the week, here comes Friday and Saturday morning with some additional hot topic ideas. So what we're going to be talking about that's been published are these three topics for sure. The text message fiasco, the 250-word federal ban word list, and USAID, whether or not it hindered Africa. In addition, we're going to talk about Jasmine Crockett. And then finally, we also are going to talk about the Hexec hiring his brother to be a senior Department of Defense Homeland Security advisor. So with me today, first of all, my name is Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell, and we have Caleb Alexander. Also, we have Chris Dawkins. And I want to say, Caleb, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, we might even slip you into hot topics, so be prepared. So the first hot topic was the fiasco of the week, the fiasco of the century, the fiasco of Trump's regime, the text messaging fiasco on Signal. And so what did these jokers do? Hexef, Gabbard, I think Walls, and some other high-level people were on Signal, the text messaging app. And they messed around and included, what was the name of the Atlantic journalist?
From Atlanta.
Yeah, him. They invited him. And then there was also a CIA operative also that was on this link. And they messed around and showed to the world the war plans they had for the Houthis out in Iran. Now, of course, they're flipping the switch saying that there was no unclassified information provided. But yeah, there was classified information provided. In fact, there was an interview with Susan Rice, and she gave a master class on how to handle classified meetings, classified materials. And in summary, she said everybody minus the journalist and that CIA operative, once they come together like that, they should have been in a SCIF, was a secured center information facility. Mm-hmm. Well, they were on a public resource called Signal, and even the Signal CEO just spanked them hard, talking about, basically, you idiots. Do you know what you're doing? And the overall answer is no. So what were your thoughts about this fiasco? You were in India. Mm-hmm. You heard about it over there. What did you say when you heard about it?
I think everybody just shook their head like they might as well have been on WhatsApp or they might as well have been on communicate through TikTok. You know what I mean? It's not a secure government app. They just downloaded a commercial app and had their own little chat group on a commercial app. Completely insecure. And so, I mean, I think we were all shocked. Mm-hmm. I can say that for sure. I think we were all shocked.
What about you?
My thought is, okay, you got all of these people.
You want to put them up on the screen?
If Carl can, he can put them up on there.
Okay.
But my question is out of all these people, and I think there were more on there than just these people. Mm-hmm. There were more people who were on this chat than the people that we see. But even if you just look at the people who are on there, the question for me is, why didn't anybody say, are we on a secure chat or link, or is this okay? Nobody said that. So that for me is the question is, why didn't somebody else say? You got Tulsi Gifford who's been there, you got Mark Rubio who's been there, you would think that Stephen Miller, and then you've got this Mike Walsh and the Pete Hegspat who are new people who should have known because of the jobs that they have, but nobody said anything.
Well, I'm even going to go 2 steps further. We had Vance, Hexperth, and Gabbard.
Right.
They're former military people.
Okay.
And they should have known better than to allow that conversation to even have initiated on Signal.
Right.
So,
Gabbard is the DCI, right? She is basically
Director
the
of National.
director of intelligence. She's the DNI. So she is the nation's chief intelligence officer. She should have known better. You know what I mean? It goes to show you when you hire people who don't know what they're doing.
Well, the reason why I'm pointing those 3 out is because they were in the military. I'm a former military spouse, okay? Even I knew about skiff rooms, it's classified data. I don't know how to handle it, but I knew about that as well, right? How could these 3 former military people have been so stupid
Right.
and allow this information to have slipped out like this? And so now we're seeing the TikTok videos from active duty personnel who were on their way to do this this bombing, and they said they almost got killed. You know, they were trusting the Department of Defense to give them information that was going to help them get there safely, do what they have to do, and then come back home alive. What if there had been a major change? And then the other question is, I think Waltz was in Russia at the time that this chat was going on. So do you think, or should I even ask, Putin got that information?
I mean, on something like that, just a public app, I'm sure probably, and China probably knew, Russia probably knew, anybody with a decent intelligence agency already probably knew what was going on or knew that the attack was coming. So for people who say, why does it matter, it doesn't matter, it was inconsequential, here's the deal. So when we were in India, we did an exercise. It was a red team exercise. One of the components of it was talking about groupthink, right? So the story was there were all these hotshot attack helicopter pilots in Iraq. They were going to go on a mission. And the one female in the room who dared to speak up, who dared to challenge groupthink, says, well, what would happen if all of them pointed their guns in the air at the same time? So they all laughed and ridiculed her and said, shut up, go sit in the corner. We need your opinion. You know, so what ended up happening is when these attack helicopter pilots were flying the mission, they noticed the people were on the roof with cell phones. And all along the way, so when they got to their destination, the exact same thing this young lady said was going to happen happened. Everybody pointed their weapons in the air at the same time, RPGs, machine guns, fire. The whole mission got shot up. So that's why it's important that your enemies don't know when you're coming, the time you're coming, the day you're coming, the moment you're coming, because it did place those pilots in jeopardy. They could have all had their air defense missiles and air defense weapons trained at the same time, the same location, because they knew where they were coming, when they were coming. So it does matter because they did jeopardize the lives of American military personnel. So it does matter that they did this.
And then another article that I read is that the Department of Defense allowed the loading of signal on the cell phones.
Right.
So this is a big joke. And reason why I'm talking about this so long, because I just did an article for Black Life Texas where basically I honored General Charles Q. Brown. And when I looked at his resume was superb to where he had the experience. And even if you look at Lloyd Austin, they had the experience. And what was that woman we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Over the naval.
Yeah,
Pacific?
Franchetti. I think it was Franchetti. She was the chief of the naval operation, and they also probably the woman who's over the Coast Guard.
So we had 4 top-ranked military officers.
2 blacks, 2 women.
Who knew how to handle. And now we have a Fox B star, who also hired his brother, who was a podcaster.
Right.
I don't know. And we had Tulsi Gabbard, where there's
Russian spy.
controversy behind her being a Russian operative. You know, we've got some questionable folks running this country, but we had 4 people who were removed from their jobs, who could have kept us
eminently qualified,
who could have kept us in better safety.
And here's the deal.
And so now I have to admit, I question the safety, the security of this country because of these guys, these people who are in positions that require not only DEI quality people, but people who knew exactly how to handle situations, and not people who are hired for the merit of their loyalty to Trump.
The guy that replaced CQ was a 3-star general,
Retired.
who had to retire because he couldn't get promoted.
He was a lieutenant general.
Right. He was a 3-star. He was a lieutenant general. Because in the military, once you reach that rank, it's up or out. You know what I mean? So this guy, he couldn't go up, so he got out. He retired because he couldn't get promoted. So you this guy had to go get waiver after waiver after waiver after congressional waiver in order to even get the position that Trump appointed him to. So you talk about a DEI hire or somebody not qualified. This man wasn't qualified to get a 4th star, let alone be qualified to be the chief military officer of the Pentagon.
I know.
So they can never again raise this specter of not earned it or not qualified or whatever, because they got a 3-star general who they leapt over a bunch of 4-star generals because he told Trump he'd die for him.
So this whole incident really just shows us one thing: the level of incompetence that we have right now in this. I don't even want to call it a government, in this reality show.
Yeah.
So now the next thing I want to talk about are these 250 words that have shown up on the federal banned word list. And in these words, can you show it?
Yep. If Carl, can we? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, we can't see. Well, okay. There's a lot of words on here. I mean, and you got a lot of words that apply to a whole bunch of folks. Like, for example, you can't say disabilities, disabilities, disability, disabled. You definitely can't say discriminated, discrimination, or discriminatory.
Black.
You can't say black. You
Ethnicity.
You can't say breastfeed.
You can't say woman. And it's kind of like, are you guys for real? Inclusive leadership. You can't say Native American. You can't say non-binary or non-binary.
Gender.
You can't say
intersectionality.
you can't say minority serving institution. You can't say men who have sex with. Now, you know what else is interesting on this list? You can't say sex worker or prostitute.
Why can't
Marijuana or measles?
you can't say peanut allergy? Why can't you say peanut allergy?
And I got a theory about that. You can't say peanut allergies. You can't say vaccines, and you can't say autism. So I've got a theory about these 3 words by themselves. Okay.
Wow. You can't say pregnant?
Now,
Oh my God.
reason why you can't say special populations, but I really think that some of Kennedy's biases slipped in here because he's anti-vaccines. He doesn't, I think he has some interesting personal theories about what autism is not. And then, of course, anything else, of course, the vaccines and the measles. He's against all that. But this...
Woman or women?
You can't say woman or women. You can't say victim or victims. You can't say people. Now, which is really interesting, you can't say people. You can't say people. You can't say excluded, exclusion, ethnicity, evidence-based. Because, that makes sense because they want everybody to be stupid, right? You can't say, here's another, I think, Kennedy word, ultra-processed foods and dietary guidelines.
Can't say fetus.
Can't say fetus, even though this is a pro-life group.
Can't say immigrants.
Can't say gender. Can't say gay.
Can't say they or them.
Can't say biologically male and biologically female. You can't say bias, bias toward, biases towards. I don't know what chest feed people and chest feed persons are.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. You can't say clean energy, and I think you can't say climate control. So they're trying to remove all references to diversity from the language. And so I'm trying to figure out, well, dang, what do these folks talk about then during the day? Now, it's interesting enough, you can't say black, but can you say the N-word?
That's not on the list, is it?
No, that ain't on the list. That all on the list.
Acceptable.
Right.
Yeah, what do these folks talk about during the day? Nothing.
It probably sound like a rap song. They probably in the conference room.
So what did you guys think when you saw the list?
I wasn't surprised.
I was surprised.
I'm not surprised.
You know, each day, this new administration and what they're doing, I say, first of all, I had decided not to watch the news. But I do watch the news.
Bothering you on text messages.
No, but I watch the news because it's like I call Trump Dennis the Menace. Okay. And so I turn on the news to see what Dennis got into today. Okay. And it's always, I say, they can't top this. Cannot top this. But every day, every day it's something. Every second it's something. It's so much to keep up with. I mean, you just cannot keep up with it all. But as it relates to the list, from my standpoint, I just don't. It seems like to me, you're trying to outlaw the free speech, and you're trying to say what people can and cannot say, and we're getting to be more and more of a controlled type of government. More so than the list, I ask about those people who voted for Trump. Is this what you voted for? Is this what you thought you were going to get?
Well, you know, Tyrese, I don't know if you saw the video I sent you about that, but Tyrese really impressed me this week when he put out a video and he says, this is for Trump supporters only. Everybody else keeps scrolling. Well, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I did listen to what he said. And he says that to the black supporters, to the Hispanic supporters of Trump, to all these different supporters, is this what you asked for? Is this what you asked for? And he says that he is a Christian, and he's going to pray not only for those who are impacted, but he's also going to do a prayer also for all these supporters of Trump, because you got to wonder, do you know what you get? You know, the man told us in his first term who he was. If you are black, he said that he wanted to put a post. He took out a page and put it in the newspaper against the Central Park Five while having them assassinated. Do you not think that this man is not who he said he is? And so these words, maybe these words are words that, of course, he doesn't want us to use. But I believe this is a slow attack to our freedom of speech.
Well, first of all, I know this is somewhat off topic, but I don't believe he even knows what's being put out. They're putting it out supposedly under his name, but I don't believe that he even knows some of the stuff that's going out. After the fact, he looks at it, he says, oh, yeah, you know, I did this, or, you know, but I don't even, somebody else, and not totally Elon, is running this country.
Well, you know, he said that he didn't even know about the signal incident. He says, what? I wasn't even there.
You know what? And I kind of believe him as far as that's concerned. He didn't know probably what was going on. Some people say, well, they think he was lying, and he could have been, but I think it was true. He probably didn't know what had happened.
So these words.
I think this country has been taken over by a white nationalist, racist regime. You have a bunch of South Africans who are running this country. You have a bunch of white nationalists like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, who have gained extraordinary power and access. And I think that they have put in place all the pieces that they need to fundamentally transform and restructure this country. And they are changing up the military. They're getting rid of anybody who is black or woman who is in positions of command. They've even changed they've getting the Marines to change their rules on shaving. And so for conditions that we primarily suffer from, like the folliculitis and stuff like that. So now what this does is you're going to create a branch, an elite branch of the military that's going to be pure white. This is their version of the SS. That's what that is. That's what they're trying to create.
What do you think is going to happen when he asks the military to either do something or to pledge their allegiance to him?
That's going to shake the military to its core. A lot of people are going to have to examine themselves, examine their fundamental beliefs, and a lot of people are going to have to decide at that moment whether they want to keep a constitutional democracy or not. And that's going to be an individual decision.
Do you think that there'll be infighting with the military, those who want to and those who don't?
That's the scary part. There will be. I think.
Won't that tear us up?
But for the most part, it'll probably be a battle, but it'll be a short-lived battle.
What do you mean?
Because
Expand upon that.
The people who are on the side of keeping a 250-year-old democracy will outnumber those who want a dictatorship.
Now, when you say that, do you mean the military will outnumber, the people in the military will outnumber, or just American spirit?
The people in the military who swore an oath to the Constitution will outnumber those who want to disregard that oath that they've sworn and pledge allegiance to a dictatorship. I basically think that there are more people who will be on the right side of history than will be on the wrong side of history. The uniqueness of the American military and American system is that they are not drafted. They're volunteers. They are our sons. They're our daughters. And what you would have to envision is that, you know, the kid that you know, or the kid that you raised, or your son or your daughter would be willing to lift a rifle and
turn it against
the
neighbor.
Right. And so I don't envision that happening. When it comes down to that granular level of pulling the trigger, I don't care how high the order comes from. Those kids are not going to shoot grandma and grandpa. Those kids are not going to shoot coach such and such. Those kids are not going to shoot Mrs. or Mrs. who taught them history or math or science. You know what I mean? Those kids are not going to shoot their buddies who they grew up with, who they played football with, who are, you know what I mean? When it comes down to that level. And you saw this repeatedly. That's how Yeltsin came to power in Russia. And we're talking in Russia, a communist system, where those kids were like, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? I'm not doing this. I'm not going to, I'm not going to shoot my neighbors. Or, you know, I'm not going to do this. So the communist government failed. And Boris Yeltsin came to power. And I think you'll see that even more prominently in the United States once he gives that order. Once he gives that kind of order. I think they know that.
All right. Oof. So I saw an article, and the article is no longer available, but that does not mean it didn't exist. And in this article, it talked about, and I can't think of the woman's name, but she was from Africa. And and she made a statement that
Ericana. You talk about Ericana Chiambari-Kwa.
Yeah, that's her.
Ericana.
Yeah, okay. And she made a statement that USAID, when it was removed from Africa, or they didn't get any more funding, that it was the best thing to happen to Africa. In fact, she said that USAID actually hindered Africa. And I never thought about the hindering. That's the side of me talking about, oh, we're sending food, we're sending materials, we're sending medicines, we're sending to help these people. But I didn't think about it, were we hindering? In fact,
the way to control.
My pastor just got back from Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he told us last Sunday was that the Liberians, they don't want a handout. They don't want a handout. They want a partnership. Okay? So, USAID, we've been crying about the food rotting in the ports and everything else. But have we been inadvertently hindering or controlling Africa and other nations with this so-called kindness via USAID?
Well, so I mean, there's the saying, if you give a man a fish, he won't go hungry for a day. You teach a man how to fish, he won't go hungry for a lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. So it's that kind of argument, or even a similar argument. Desegregation is the worst thing that ever happened to the black community, because now we became dependent on other folks and we integrated and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, it's similar type of arguments, right? And I understand it, and I understand where that's coming from. And I love Ericanna. I respect her immensely. But at the same time, I know people who work for USAID. And I know the work that they do. I know they're passionate about the work that they do. And I know that USAID was really providing food and vaccines. So it's easy for someone in the upper levels of society to say, oh, we don't need this. You know what I mean? Very esoteric thought. You know what I mean? But on the granular level, when you're sitting there and you're hungry and your belly is swollen, these idea of we don't need dependence and we can do, that it's different when you're there and you're hungry and there's flies flying around, you're starving, your mom's starving, your brother's starving. So African nations don't have the capacity. Would I love to see them take control of their own destiny and be fully independent? Absolutely. My dream. You know what I mean? However, there's a simple matter of capacity at this time. Do you have the capacity to grow everything that's needed and then to distribute what you've grown? Do you have the infrastructure? Do you have the roads? Do you have the trucks? Do you have all this, to do this and to stop that aid cold? And so I think there's an idea where dreams have to meet reality, you know what I mean? And where they're not meeting the reality that's on the ground. Do we want to get to that point? Absolutely. Are we at that point? Not yet. And so USA does good works, vaccinations, food distribution, healthcare, medical care. And it's the symbol of America. That's their first and most prominent symbol that they see of America. You know what I mean? And that combats the narrative that America is only there to engage terrorists, or America only wants to come in and do drone strikes, or the China is here to help, or or Russia's Wagner group is out there fight. So it helps America to combat that narrative. You know what I mean? No, we're not just here to do drone strikes. Here's food. You know what I mean? Here's real food. Here's real aid.
So it becomes a story of scenario, we are our brother's keeper.
It helps America send that message. You know what I mean? And so the simple fact of the matter is, when it comes down to it, would I rather see those African nations under Chinese influence, Russian influence, or American influence? And it's easy for us to say right now, you know what I mean, none of the above or whatever, when you have somebody like Trump in office. You know what I mean? But let's say if it had been somebody like Kamala in office, or somebody like Barack in office. You know what I mean?
Having this discussion.
Right. You know what I mean? So, you want the African people to have their own destiny, but you want them to be in control of that destiny. And so with Chinese influence, they won't be in control of that destiny. You want to promote democracy. You know what I mean? And so I'd rather them flourish under an African form of democracy than under Chinese dominion or control, or being controlled by a Russian military arm like Wagner Group or Africa Corps, whatever they call themselves now. So that's it's gonna be argument, debate, all that kind of stuff about it, but it is what it is.
You got any thoughts on this? I know you don't have a thought on the next topic.
What's the next topic?
No. Answer the first question. Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts, but it's all, I guess, been discussed at various times, and people are just confused and don't know what to do. I know we were talking to Caleb offset, and he was saying that people in India are wondering why we're not taking to the streets. I kind of wonder the same question, why we're not taking to the streets. We had an event 2 weeks ago, and I was saying, well, the most important thing in the country right now is what's happening at the federal level. But the only way that we can control it is to make sure that those people who are running in those seats, that we do something. But nobody wanted to do really anything, or nobody pursued that. So, I kind of see us somewhat as being submissive, and we're not really taking some of the threats. We think that somebody's going to save us. And I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case.
Okay. So our next hot topic, our girl in Houston.
Houston?
I mean, well, Dallas.
Oh, okay.
Yes, okay, was watching Roland Martin because he's from Houston.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, Jasmine Crockett. Happy birthday, Jasmine.
Happy birthday, Jasmine.
But MAGA is upset at her
Why?
because during her birthday speech, she talked about, she referred to Trump. I mean, not Trump. Texas Governor
Abbott.
as Governor Hot Wheels. And they just about lost her mind.
Fake indignation.
Now,
Little Marco.
Right.
All the things that this president has called different people.
Yeah.
And they're going to be upset about that.
I don't know too many folks in Texas who have not referred to Abbott as Governor Hot Wheel. But they took it as a slang because of his handicap.
Right. From the president who was sitting up there mocking a handicap.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. A military handicapped person.
That's it. So these people with their fake indignation can go somewhere and sit down.
Now, the piece that got me was when Fox News followed her to her office, at the Capitol, and wanting her to apologize. I got a problem with that. They always want us to apologize. Now, was it the fact that a black woman called Abbott Governor Hot Wheel? If a white woman had said it, would it have been the same?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
But a black woman who is pretty articulate, who is smart, called him Governor
Hot Wheels.
And, all the proverbial all hell broke loose.
Yeah. All the names they call Obama over the years and call Michelle, and they still call her a man, and they call her transgender, and all they can take their fake outrage and they know where to put it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's just simple. Don't nobody want to hear that. They go sit down.
And we're not going. And I don't want her to apologize. She didn't say.
She shouldn't.
She didn't say anything wrong.
No, she should.
I look at Jasmine Crockett. I look at Jasmine Crockett as
Okay, Carl, we see you.
a breath of fresh air, because look, the way my father and grandfather and people of the older sect protested or talked about things is not the way things are today. The younger people have a different take, and they're going to meet the challenge where it is at this particular point. And that goes back to what I was saying in the previous topic. We're expecting somebody to come save us. Jasmine Crockett is saying, no, I'm going to say the things that need to be said right now, and I don't care really if it hurts them or not. That's the attitude that I think that we have to have.
Yeah. Their policies have done way more damage than her words have. You know what I mean? And so you're talking about the people who right now want to disband the Department of Education. Well, guess what the Department of Education funds? Those same programs that allow, wheelchairs, that allow special education.
Ramps.
Yeah.
For access.
Yeah. So the damage that these people are doing are way more damaging than any words she could have ever said. So all this fake outrage, they need to go sit down.
Why be so outraged about that? But
It's
not
fake.
But not be outraged about things like Social Security. Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, the people who are the Congress people, you can't tell me they don't have some people who are being affected. Okay.
They do. That's why
I know they do.
That's why they stopped holding town hall.
Well, wait a minute. What is it? Secretary of Labor. I can't think of his name. Now we're going to digress here a bit. He made a statement saying that anybody who calls into Social Security complaining about a missed payment basically is a fraudster or a fraud.
Why?
I think that they're trying to use it as an excuse to investigate a person, right? But we're talking about a person whose wealth almost like $2 billion. Okay. Now, if he said his mother wouldn't call in because she would think that they just missed a payment and they
she'll
would
get it
make up the next month, right?
Right.
But mama don't even have to worry about it if her son is worth
It's a billion.
about $2 billion.
Right.
Now, Hakeem Jeffries' mother put a different spin on it because she did miss a payment, and she contacted her son, and he said that she wanted to know what was wrong, and we know when she gonna get her when gonna get my money, right?
Yeah.
He said he's not worth that type of money, but he made sure that his mother was taken care of in the time being. There was nothing fraudulent about what his mama said when she called up the Social Security, asking the questions, and now that 800 number is gone.
Most of the elderly people in this country live from month to month or check to check.
So I'm thinking that there needs to be a wheelchair, walker, cane protest. Bring up all these old people from this, gather them up from the seniors, from the homes. My mama is in a home right now. Gather all them folks up, push them, just push them in their beds, whatever we can push them in, and they show up to the legislature talking about where's my money, where's my money, and I think that once they really start messing with people's money with Social Security, they haven't seen hell yet. All hell will literally break loose.
People depend on that money, and they have mortgages to pay. They have lights. They have water. They have Medicaid. They have co-pays for medicine. People truly depend on that money, and it's not like it's a lot of money. That's one, and two, it's their money. Social Security is not an entitlement. It's their money. They paid into the system. They worked their entire lives, and now they upheld their part of the bargain, contributing with each paycheck. So now the government has to uphold their part of the bargain and give them their money on time every month.
So we talked about it a lot today. And again, I know that while we were sitting down, probably something else happened.
I'm sure.
Something else happened. But for the most part, you guys want to close off with anything?
No, you know what? Just a little bit, touch on what Chris said a little bit. So, you know what? Nobody said anything when they were going after DEI. And so they went after DEI, they attacked DEI, they attacked Black History, blah, 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 everything. They went after USAID. Nobody said anything because they didn't work for USAID. You know what I mean? Next up, Department of Education. And so they keep going after, they went after trans folks. Nobody said anything because, I'm not trans. You know what I mean? But they keep going after you one by one by one by one by one. You know what I mean? And eventually they will get to somebody, an organization or a group that you are a member of, or that you do belong to. But by the time they get to your group, they've already taken out all the other groups. So there's nobody to help you fight. You know
But
what
I
I mean?
think Social Security would be the
So-
one to watch because,
Well-
see, if my mom lost her Social Security,
Mhm.
then that means in the interim, I need to figure out how to
Yeah.
take care of her. Okay.
Right.
So let's think about me
No.
times 3
Right.
times 4. It's going to be a whole lot of people.
Yeah,
Social
no,
Security.
but even before that, Doc,
Social Security is going to be the thing that
Right.
that will take it all out.
I think that all the people who, before they get to Social Security, all the people who that will impact need to be fighting for the Department of Education. We all should have been fighting for USAID. We all should have been fighting for trans rights. We all should have been fighting against DI. We all should have been on board, on code with each other from the first fight. You know what I mean? And now that they've moved to the Department of Education, we all need to be engaged in this fight. We need to battle them every single step of the way and just not wait till it gets to our particular group.
I agree
We need to fight
100%.
together.
But to your point, I think each time those groups that you've mentioned is all been trial balloons. Let's see what they will do. Let's see what they will do. Well, now they're getting to Social Security. And I've said this to you guys before. I do not believe they are intending on having midterm elections, because if they did, they wouldn't be putting up the issues about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, different things like that, because everybody would come out and vote against them. So if they put that up, to me, you need to be vigilant and understand and think and do what you talked about, which is fight everything
Yeah,
Tooth and nail.
tooth and nail.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and basically, I guess we can close on this statement, as I said last week, and I'll keep saying it. Ignorance is the handmaiden of tyranny. Think about it. And this is Contemporary Black Voices, where we tell our story our way. See you next week.
All right.
I don't know where I'm going. Carl,